APOB here. Yeah, this is a very quick live that I'm bringing to you all regarding the African Commonwealth channel on YouTube. So every single one of you who is following me on TikTok, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is African Commonwealth. The YouTube channel is African Commonwealth. Subscribe to that YouTube channel because we're going to be beginning a podcast in January that's going to be centered around African offshore banking. African offshore banking is going to become a platform whereby we can bring about an African economic revolution. Offshore banking in Africa is a thing, just like, you have individuals who offshore banking in the Cayman Islands and all those different offshore banking countries. So there are a list of banks and a list of countries in Africa that we're going to be encouraging, or I will be encouraging African offshore banking. So for those of you who are interested, especially Africans in the diaspora and also Africans of within the continent itself, continental Africans, and African diasporans, African Americans, Afro Caribbeans, Afro Latinos in Central and South America. This is going to be a way that we can build a new economic paradigm shift for Black people around the world. That is African offshore banking. So for those of you who want to be part of this program, make sure you go to my YouTube page, African Commonwealth. As we are speaking now, go and subscribe to my YouTube page, African Commonwealth. We're going to be engaging in a serious effort to bring about an African economic revolution. That African economic revolution, it's for the benefit of all Black people around the world. So make sure, if you haven't yet, go to my YouTube page, African Commonwealth, and subscribe to that channel, because I will be bringing up list of banks in Africa with high interest rates, especially for savings account. And also I will be teaching you all exactly the steps you're gonna need in order to do offshore banking in Africa and earn up to 6 to 9% interest rate on your deposit. You don't have to live in Africa to do offshore banking in Africa. You don't have to be a citizen of those countries to do offshore banking in Africa. And the steps will be very simple, using our law firms in Nairobi, Kenya, and also setting you up a business corporation within those countries and a business license that you will use to open a business account with those trustworthy banks in the continent, that you can begin that project of offshore banking. There are certain banks in Africa you can deposit as little as 25 to 50 USD a month, and within 1 year you will be shocked how much money you have in that account, something that you cannot achieve in the United States. There are certain banks in Africa that we're going to be revealing for those of you who want to be part of the African offshore banking program that I will be unveiling, because there are already some of my subscribers and some of my followers here on TikTok even who have already gone through that process, and now they are offshore banking in countries like Kenya, in countries like Tanzania, and Burkina Faso as well. Burkina Faso has the People's Bank of Burkina Faso in Ouagadougou that we're going to be showing you step by step as a Black man anywhere in the world for you to offshore bank to begin offshore banking. So African offshore banking is one of the methods that African Commonwealth will be using to bring about an African economic revolution. I will teach you exactly how to be in the United States or in the UK or in Canada or wherever you are and set up an offshore banking whereby you can actually see how your money is doubling or working for you in those accounts, in those banks. As I said, you don't have to live in Africa to actually invest in the growth of the African economy. So we talk about black power, we talk about Captain Ibrahim Traore and all the beautiful things that are happening in the continent with some of the progressive leaders, right? The way we actually support them is to offshore bank in those countries. And that is why I will be teaching you all what steps to take, the legal counsel you need in order for you to begin the process of offshore banking. You can start as early as tomorrow or as early as today to begin offshore banking in the continent. With just $25 every month or every week, you can put in your offshore savings account in major banks in the continent. You grow the African economy, and likewise you are also making huge interest, 6 to 9% with certain banks, and depending on the type of accounts you open, because enough is enough. We cannot continue banking our money in countries where we don't even have access in terms of business loans and all this. So you can be an African American, but you hold an offshore banking account in Kenya, in Ghana, in South Africa, in Lesotho, in Tanzania, in Malawi, in Mozambique, in Uganda. That is your account. And when you choose to fly over to those countries, you have money already in those accounts, in your account in those countries. When you choose to become a dual citizenship, each country have a certain amount of money that you need in order to show as an investor for you to become a dual citizen. So that's the first step. Before you even buy your flight and go to Africa, set up an African offshore banking. And these directives will be given to you. Just please make sure you go right now and subscribe to my YouTube channel, African Commonwealth. The YouTube channel is African Commonwealth. African Commonwealth. Subscribe to that channel, because I will be teaching you all how to open an offshore account, and you can begin saving your money in those offshore accounts. You don't have to come from that country. Just like you can offshore bank in Cayman Islands, you can offshore bank in Bermuda, you can offshore bank in Isles of Man, you can offshore bank in Switzerland. You know, Switzerland is the most prominent one. Without you being a Swiss citizen, you can open bank accounts in Switzerland, right? We have to start doing this in our own mother continent instead of banking in European banks, offshore banking in European banks. That doesn't help build a commonwealth for our people around the world. So African offshore banking is the way to go. And for those of you who don't have YouTube yet, you can DM me on TikTok, or you can send me a message and we can take it from there. I will show you how to get the lawyers. We already have a law firm actually in Nairobi that will assist you to set up your corporations in Africa, and the law firm will work with you and work with the bank to set up your offshore banking. It's very important. Before I started offshore banking in Africa, I was offshore banking in the Caribbean. In Panama, there's a lot of offshore banking in Panama. You don't have to come from Panama to offshore bank in Panama. But why should we offshore bank in Panama when we have stronger economies and stronger banking governance in places like Kenya, in places like South Africa, in places like even Lesotho, in places like Tanzania? So